welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be a foundation battle between the exact same foundation. So I am talking about the L'Oreal True Match foundation. This is what it originally looked like, and I have the new reformulated version here. So I kind of wanted to put these two to the test, see if the new one is better than the old one, and just talk about it with you. So I've been testing out both of these foundations for quite a while now, for a few weeks. I have some clips that I'm going to be inserting into this video, just showing application as well as different check-ins outside. So if that all sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's just get started talking about the differences and similarities between these two foundations. Before we get started today, I do just want to say that I am wearing both of these foundations on my face. So on this side, I have the new formula, and then on this side, I have the old original formula. So I do just want to say that just so we can kind of get a comparison. Now, these are different shades because I had the original version in N3, neutral 3 here, and it is a little dark for me. As you can see, it is winter time. This would be more of my summer shade. So when I picked up the newer version, I didn't want to get the same color. Even though it would be nice to compare shades, I just knew this one was going to be better for winter time, and now I can kind of mix the two depending on what season it is. But as you can see, this is N2, and it just matches me a lot better. So I just wanted to say that off the bat in case you can tell a shade difference here while we talk about these in this video. Everything that I'm wearing is always listed down below in the description box. But let's just get started talking about these. So even though I already had this foundation, I had actually never tried it. I keep an entire bin of foundations that I've never tried, kind of like a needs to be reviewed bin. It's a little embarrassing, but I'll pop up a photo of how just overflowing this bin is. But since I already had this and then I saw that they reformulated it, I figured I might as well pick it up, do just a first impressions wear test against the two. So this was actually the first time that I had tried both of these foundations, original and new formula. And I have a lot of thoughts. I'm going to be doing my foundation review a little bit different. If you have seen some of my foundation review videos before, I usually take you kind of with me on my day, show myself applying the foundation, doing a check-in outside, and then doing an end of day wear test. Because there was two foundations, I'm kind of trying a different way. So you'll have to let me know in the comments which way you prefer. I kind of think this way might be better, but you'll be seeing a lot of clips here and there of just me comparing the foundations while I talk about them. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. I also just welcome the feedback on what kind of style you like. I'm always trying to improve and grow. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Just talking about the differences of this foundation. So the new version, clearly they upgraded with a pump here, which is very nice. This just really dates the bottle with the no pump and the pour lid. Just a very old school type of bottle, early 2000s. I mean, it was time for this to have an upgrade. Also, I do just want to say, talking about the shades side by side, while these are different shades, this is N2, this is N3, I do think they did a better job with just their neutral undertones. That's all I can speak on, but this is still pulling a little bit orange. I've reviewed other L'Oreal foundations. I'll link the playlist up above of just my foundation review playlist. L'Oreal can tend to lean a little bit orange, and even just looking here with the old formula, you can see that it just pulls a little bit orange, just circa Maybelline Dream Mousse days. So it's nice to see that they're improving their undertones, and that's something that they talk about a lot on their website. As far as pricing goes, this one is $13.99. I would say that that's an okay price for a drugstore foundation. The L'Oreal Infallible Freshwear is probably what I'm going to compare this to the most, just because it's the same brand, similar bottle size, and that one is a very well-loved foundation. So I think that this is a good price point. It's hard for me to find a price point on this foundation since it's now being discontinued. Right now on Amazon, it's around $9, but the original price, I'm just not sure. As far as ingredients go, they did change the formula. So I want to make that clear. This is not just new packaging, same formula. They did change the formula. And I'm going to pop up a photo of just the detailed ingredients of both of these foundations. This side will always be the new side. This side will always be the old side, just so we can kind of keep it cohesive here. But the biggest claim that they're making is that this is now a vegan formula. So that's really nice to know. I am not sure off the top of my head if L'Oreal is cruelty-free. I don't believe so, but their formula is at least now vegan. They both contain SPF, although the original formula, it varies on the amount of SPF depending on the shade, which is very odd. And SPF is a huge claim in this foundation, whereas for this foundation, the new formula, it's not really talked about. It's very small here on the back that it contains SPF 16, and here it's just very large. This contains SPF. So this was a big claim for this foundation, where for the new formula, it's not really something that they're advertising. And then both of these formulas are fragrance-free, oil-free, but the new formula claims to be alcohol-free as well. Then the only other difference as far as the claims on these is just that the new foundation comes in 47 shades. The old foundation came in 33 shades. It's hard for me to tell exactly where the expansion was because both of the foundations started at 0.5 and they end at a 12. So they must have just expanded the undertones of this foundation. That's also something that they talk about a lot just on their website. But both of these have a medium coverage with a natural finish, at least that's what they're claiming, suitable for all skin types, especially sensitive skin, and it's supposed to be a lightweight formula. I'm going to talk about just my thoughts here in a second. But really what they just talk about, it's interesting to me because this is the True Match line, clearly, and they're trying to like really switch up their words is what I noticed. For the old formula, they just said that it was a patented color technology, whereas with the new formula, they say 6 pigments for our most precise match. So I don't really know if they changed their color match technology, what they're calling it, or if they're just kind of spicing up the wording here. I'm going to go with the latter because I don't think that they really changed anything with that. I think they try to make it vegan to try and appeal to a bigger audience while adding a pump. That's kind of just my overall thoughts. But now that we've talked about a little bit of what kind of coverage, who it's meant for, etc., let's kind of just talk about my experience with these two foundations. Starting with applying these foundations, obviously the biggest just irritation with the old formula was that I had to pour it onto the back of my hand. I used a sponge for both of these foundations only because that is my preferred method of applying foundation. It gives just a little bit more of a lighter coverage, and that's why I prefer it. I prefer more of a light to medium coverage foundation. And just for reference, I have normal leaning dry skin, definitely more on the dry side right now just because of how cold it's been. My skin is really lacking moisture, but applying these foundations, I found both of them to be very, very similar, other than the shade, just difference on them. They applied really nice. It did give a medium coverage and it did apply very naturally. I was actually surprised when trying these. I didn't expect it to look so natural on the skin, but they both did, and I really appreciated that. The difference then started in my 4-hour check-in. So I do my 4-hour check-in outside in natural daylight. That's going to change on the day. Obviously, I didn't try these both on the same day, and I think one of the days it was a little bit colder than the other day. I think it actually snowed on one of the days that I did the outside check-in. So not as much light as maybe I would have wanted, but both of the check-ins, they were okay. With the old formula, I would say that what I noticed is that it really started to break apart on my chin and on my forehead here. It didn't really keep my oils at bay. Even though I'm normal leaning dry, I do still have oil that comes throughout the day, and it can kind of separate my makeup. So with the old formula, I noticed it more separating, whereas with the new formula, I found it more kind of slipping on my face rather than kind of breaking apart and looking very pixely. I found it to be just more slidey, if that makes any sense, if those are the proper terms for what I was experiencing. But it didn't look bad. I don't do any kind of blotting or just touching up throughout my wear test, so keep that in mind. I'm sure that at the 4-hour check-in, had I blotted with a little bit of powder, it probably would have fixed it, or used my sponge to kind of tap in the separation with the old formula. It would have looked great. But so I continued on with my day. I don't think either of those days I did anything super strenuous, probably, if I had to guess. I do know that both of those days I did go to the gym, but I do more weight training, so I'm not really breaking a sweat doing cardio. But I did make sure, since I went to the gym wearing the old formula, I wanted to make sure that I did that with the new one, just to make it fair across the board. But at the end of the day, I would say they both looked the same to me, even though at the 4-hour, it was kind of breaking apart at my chin for the old formula, and I wasn't experiencing that with the new formula. By the end of the day, they both look the same. The biggest thing that I look for in my wear test is that it wears down naturally. Obviously, a foundation is not going to last all day. I don't want it to. Any of those foundations that claim 24-hour wear time, I'm not looking for that. I want it to wear down. I just want it to wear down naturally, where you can start to see my skin peeking through. And I don't really find that the case with this. So while I like both of these foundations, just to get my final thoughts out of the way, I do like both of these foundations. The only thing I'm just not happy with is probably the wear time. I would just say that I would prefer it to wear down a little bit better, where it kind of had my skin showing through rather than breaking apart or sliding. You could really see where my glasses are, that the foundation was just really sliding through here, right in between my eyebrows on both of them. It was separating and breaking apart. My oils was just getting the foundation to completely break apart and slide. So I don't love that. Once I filmed my end of day check-in, I did blot it with my sponge and it did press back into place. So that's why I mentioned, like, I don't do any touching up throughout the day, but I do it at the end of the day, and it did look a lot better. This is a foundation you'll have to touch up, you'll have to blot it back into place. I didn't find too much movement with my complexion products during the wear test, a little bit, but really not too much. I made sure to use the same products each time. So that's really where I stand on both of these foundations. When it comes to it, I'm not finding that big of a difference. I think that what L'Oreal did is, instead of coming out with a brand new product, putting in money towards marketing, etc., they took a well-loved foundation that probably made them a lot of money back in the day, and they just kind of revamped it and decided to give it a little bit new life. That would be my guess. I think that it probably would have cost them less money. They upgraded the packaging. They know people like the pump. This is very similar to the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear. You can see here, the components are essentially the same. All they did is they took the same component and just swapped the lids out. So it was probably not a cost expense for them to just upgrade the packaging on this. That's gonna be my guess. Yes, they made it a vegan formula, so there is a little bit of changes, but I would say overall, if you love this True Match foundation, you don't need to worry. The new foundation is gonna probably work just as well for you. If you've also tried both of these foundations, I'd love to hear just your input in the comments below. I've only been wearing these. I've probably worn them now 3 or 4 times. I don't find anything to really disrupt the foundation. I'm looking at my makeup bag, but primers don't really seem to affect it. I can use any kind of primer. It's a very versatile and a really great drugstore foundation, actually. I think L'Oreal was very smart in what they did, because this was one that just sat in my bin waiting to be tried. And I was always reaching for other foundations to do a wear test on, because this was kind of old. It kind of just wasn't thought about. And they really breathed new life into a product that was a staple for them for a very long time. I remember seeing this when I was a teenager in the drugstore, the True Match line. So I'm happy that they did this. It's nice to not always have to get like the new. This is new while still kind of being old. So I don't know. I'm like on the fence on whether I like what they did or not. I am happy that they just breathed new life into a product rather than feeling like I need to go grab like the newest, shiniest thing. I really feel like this is similar to what they had, just in better packaging with the pump. Pump really does make a difference. This pour thing just is not doing it. It's so messy. While I like the size of this, they're both 1 fluid ounce. I like the size of this a little bit better. It's smaller, it's easier to travel with. It's just not convenient to use. So I'm really happy with what L'Oreal did. I'm happy that they expanded the shade range. I will also just be inserting in swatches, comparing these two shades against some of my other foundations, probably as many L'Oreal foundations that I can find. So the Infallible as well as the Age Perfect. I also have that one. And speaking of the Age Perfect balm, I really wish that they would take what they did with this True Match and apply it to their Age Perfect line, because their Age Perfect line, I have to say, out of all their L'Oreal foundations, that's probably my favorite formula. It gives great coverage and it has that wear down that I'm talking about, where it just looks very natural when you wear down. The only issue that I have is I never reach for that foundation because their undertones are terrible. They're absolutely awful. Even, I can't speak for darker skin tones, but for light skin tones, it just pulls very orange. Now that I feel like L'Oreal is really starting to nail their undertones, the Infallible is really great. Their True Match, I would say, is better than their Infallible. As far as versatility and just range within the shades, now that they've done that, I know L'Oreal has the capacity and they have the funds to do that with the rest of their foundations. So that's what I would like to see from L'Oreal, just ending this video, is better shades for the rest of their foundations. If they're going to continue down this line of just revamping their foundations, let's see more shades. I think the Age Perfect Balm, if I'm remembering correctly, has 8 shades. And that's just not acceptable. Clearly, we know that they can take the shades and they can make them better. So that is where I'm gonna leave you. My dogs are now barking, so it's time for me to end. Here they go. So I hope this video was informative. I hope just switching it up, adding the clips in really helped a little bit. Let me know in the comments down below, because I'm testing something new. Hopefully it works out. And with that, I will see you all in my next video. Bye, everyone.